Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Happy New Year. It's the first time today we're starting back with the webinars. And today we are on a very popular webinar where we're having a lot of questions. Is about the new legal scenario for Brits in Spain after the 1st of January 2021. As you know, Brexit did already happen. And now, here we go with all the legal consequences. We're talking about now starting with the immigration problems. Now I will introduce you to the panelists. We'll have problems with taxes, but what is the scenario now? What about buying a property in Spain, inheritance, wills, power of attorney? There is a lot of questions now, and we're going to see whether we're going to join now to Manuel, whether he's able to make it, about customs later on. He could help us a lot about goods, removals of goods, pets, etc. So I know we only have 1 hour today to give you the best of our knowledge, but every single speaker will send you the email just in case you want to have a consultation or just a private and personal advice on your subject. So going on the panel, we've got Richard Hill, Vice President of Brexpats in Spain. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Ignacio. Hi, everybody. Thank you for inviting us to this presentation, and I hope we can be of assistance to people. Very quickly, Richard. Brexpats in Spain is available for anybody. We've got 25,000 members now, and you're welcome to join us on Facebook.
Thank you, Richard. We've got John Keel. He will introduce himself. He's been helping Brexpats in Spain. He's a translator, but he goes over that parcel, and he's been helping a lot of expat people here. Hello, John. Can you see us?
Hi, Ignacio. Hi, everybody. Yes, lovely to be joining you this afternoon. As you've introduced me, yes, my main business is translation, but for a long time, I've been helping a lot of expats here in Spain, and I'm very closely aligned, as you know, with Brexpats in Spain and one of the experts that contributes, particularly in the Valencia area.
Thank you, John. I might take the opportunity to say that Richard and John, they've been working very hard during the last years. I remember joining Brexpat probably, I think if Richard might recall, 3 years ago, and trying to advise people that this was coming, this was happening, get yourself sorted. And I thank you for the big work, support that you've done to a lot of people. Now, back on the panel, we've got Pedro Heredia, international lawyer. Hello, Pedro.
Hello, Ignacio. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Pedro is an international lawyer, expert on a lot of cases. He deals a lot with immigration. He's been dealing a lot with property and always refer to international matters. He will explain to us the impact Brexit has caused, and will explain to us, for example, different possible scenario for you to become legal in Spain if you're not. Going on the panel, we've got Michael Davies from Davies Solicitors, Abogados, Solicitors, Barrister from Almeria, Oaxaca. Hello, Michael.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you, and happy New Year.
He is ex-honorary British consul, and he's a lawyer in Spain dealing in the Andalusia. He will give us a lot of tips of advice after this situation that we are. Now I'm going to start with Richard. I will ask you to disconnect and turn off the microphones because I'm listening to different echoes if you're not speaking. I'm going to pass it over to Richard to tell us what is his comments about the situation after the 1st of January and what are the main worries on people now from the Brexpat in Spain point of view. Over to you, Richard.
Well, we are receiving a lot of comments from people, a lot of queries In particular, there's certain issues that are coming up. You've got those that are still attempting to get in under the working agreement. And that is progressing quite well, particularly in the Valencia region, with the help of John. Thank him very much for this, and yourself. We are getting the people who are applying to transfer their TIEs. That's a fairly simple process, and that's going well. Those that arrived during 2020 and have applied now to get their TIE, of course, not Residencia, that's going quite well, but of course COVID is intruding, and we're seeing the timescales extend quite enormously. I'm sure John will comment on that when it goes round to him. But people shouldn't be too worried about this because once things are in process, that's fine. There are 2 or 3 major issues that are coming up to us. And to be honest, we don't really have that many answers. One is driving licenses. A lot of people are encountering difficulty transferring their driving licenses. And as it stands at the moment, if you don't get your transfer done, you are going to be taking a Spanish driving test. Okay. Many places in Spain actually offer it as a situation to be dealt with in English, which will help. But I strongly advise anybody to get their driving license transferred if they can. We're also getting a lot of queries on what the figures are for people who apply for a TIE not under the withdrawal agreement. So I'd like to just quickly quote those figures. It's 26,000 euros this is for Alicante. It's 26,000 euros per annum per person. So a single person is 2,223 euros per month, which equates to about 2,166 pounds. In addition, per family member, it's 565 pounds per month, about 500 euros. So if you wanted to equate this to a family trying to come to Spain, a family of 4, say, it's 42,000 euros per annum. Now that's quite a bit of money. So, but that's trying to explain to people who aren't in a working agreement. The final thing that I really want to cover, if you don't mind, is there is an issue which keeps coming up on our questions page about money transfer. People are now finding that now England has left, the UK has left. It's probably England actually, because I don't know what's going to happen there. Now that the UK has left the EU, the banks are beginning to charge for money transfer. They're putting the normal charges on. And many people are quoting us a figure of 18 euros per transfer. Now, people need to be aware that if the transfer is a pension, and what you've been doing is keeping your pension in the UK and drawing down into Spain, that is not the wise way to do it now. The wise way to do it is to get your pension paid directly into a Spanish bank, because under EU rules, you do not pay charges on that transfer. That's about it in general terms, Ignacio. We, of course, have the page. I'll come to that at the end, if I may, and tell people how to join us and ask the questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Now we're having a lot of questions. It's going to be very difficult to answer today, all of them, but we can start from the very beginning. Now, John, before we go, would you like to say anything, any reflection, anything about the situation now that you went through, and something that you could highlight to the audience or community?
Yeah, I think what I'd really like to highlight for those people that are out there and sort of trying to do things solo or feeling they need to get things moving, which is particularly important as you're aware, there is still a gap, a window of opportunity for people to secure themselves with their residency in Spain up until the 31st of March, as long as they can prove that they were here before the 31st of December. Take stock of that opportunity. If you haven't done it yet, do it and do it now, because that is effectively, as far as we know, the final opportunity without using other vehicles to bring that or make that happen for you in the future. If you are going to do it solo, just make sure that you have everything in place to do it. And if you can't do it solo, then draw on somebody that has the expertise to do it. We're all there to help. And that's what it's about, making sure you've got the right advice at the right time with the right application process so that you don't miss these opportunities that exist and you need to protect your rights.
Okay, thank you, John. Very important, because funny enough, we've been having recently, actually today, a situation on people that didn't apply for the TIE at the time for different reasons. And now I think we're going to be busy with a lot of applications on past records, past evidence, and everybody's going to try now needs to be very picky with evidence, very picky, because the situation I find, John, here, we'll have to submit as we were before the 31st, proving that is true what we're saying. Very important thing, John, the padron. For those who've been having padron under or the tax return, being able to prove they were resident and having funds is very, very important. Now, there is a situation as well that you don't know in what desk your claim is going to go, and they could reject it. And you've got the option to appeal before the same extranjería or to take it to the High Court. Depending on the resolution, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of cases on appealing. But to be honest with you, I feel quite comfortable. If we comply with the requirements, John, I think it's a matter of time. Unfortunately, it will cost them money because now you need to employ a barrister. And a court runner, and here we go. So now I think it's time to start with questions. I'm going to pass over to Pedro to see whether he wants to say something, a highlight about Brexit, or what he recommends now, or what has he been saying on clients. Over to you, Pedro.
Thank you, Ignacio. Well, just to, of course, there are many things that we could say. Let's start just getting some link with what has been said by Richard. Of course, those that would like to apply for residency in Spain with a different visa, what it used to be, like a European Union citizen. Briefly summarize, there are like two queues in order to apply for residency in Spain. One queue is whenever you are a European Union citizen, and then whenever you are not European Union citizens. Of course, in the first queue, you include all these countries which are have an agreement with the European Union, like Switzerland, like Norway, like Liechtenstein, like Iceland. Those countries are in the same bag as European Union countries. The other queue is for non-European Union citizens, which, as Richard has said, could be also the visa or authorization to live and apply for residency in Spain as non-lucrative. The major problem probably right now, if we compare what we had in the past, in last year for British, and now is that you need to show a lot more money than before. The figures that Richard has said confirm it perfectly. And of course, there are more requirements on that, on criminal records, on insurance, that you need to show perfectly all that insurance. Also, certification from health in order to show that you don't have like big illness, like cholera or like peste, or this kind of big illness. And the procedure is a lot more slow. It's subjective sometimes by the visa chiefs. So this kind of route or path in order to apply for residency, it gets more difficulties apart from showing a lot more money in order to show that you are able to live in Spain with that non-lucrative visa. This is what it was said before. Apart from that, regarding the driving license, of course, I assume is a difficulty right now. It hasn't been applied before, and assuming that in the near future we expect that it's going to be like an agreement between Spain and UK. But at this time, it is what it is. And well, I'm seeing, Ignacio, a lot of questions right now in the chat. I don't know if you want to enter and start with some of them.
Right. Before we move on that, I don't know whether Michael would like to say anything as well, and then we'll just jump into questions, because I'm sure we're going to be inundated with questions today. I'm sure we'll have to do a second version, a second webinar next week or the following week, okay? Because we'll be here helping people to understand the new legal scenario. Over to you, Michael.
Okay, well, about the as far as the residencias, I haven't really got much to add. As you know, we recommended really that everyone obtain the TIE, same as yourselves beforehand. In fact, to keep our hands clean, we even stopped doing. We didn't actually do them ourselves, so people didn't think that we were trying to sort of sell them this thing. But we did recommend that they do it. And now there is a big rush in Armoria for everyone to get their TIE numbers, because everyone suspects that it's going to be necessary for certain things, even though we all know it's not theoretically obligatory. But in practice, we'll see how that goes. We have seen that it's all getting much more complicated now, without any doubt. And regarding the banks, we've seen the same thing. €18, all transfers from the UK get a charge of minimum €18. And on some statements that we've seen recently from Banco Sabadell, they point out on the statement that they're actually allowed now by law to charge up to 0.3 for the transfer. So if the sender from the UK says joint fees, in other words, half each, the Spanish bank can by law charge 0.3, and therefore they feel they're doing a very big favor to their client by only charging them those €18. But that is actually now, I've seen it on the actual statement, so there must be something true about it. And basically all we've done is gone back to the situation before 2015. If you remember, we've always paid on the transfers. 2015, the EU said that was illegal from that moment on, and now we've just gone back to the old system again. And of course, it could get worse, because in the old days, I remember Banco Popular, for example, used to charge the full 0.3 on all transfers received, and some of the banks may opt to do that.
Okay, thank you, Michael. Let's get cracking now with the questions, which I'm sure we're going to be busy now. Okay, we've got one here. We've got many. I think there is one that makes somebody, Steve from Hunter Villas, has made a summary here, which I tried to copy. If you could go down, and then you'll find it in the very 7 pages here. Okay, so here we go, 6. Now, many questions coming from our target clientele, namely, Steve is a estate agent in the inland area, and I'm sure he's been busy with a lot of questions. Retired UK couple looking for a permanent home in Spain. They're concerned about the procedure they need to follow in order to purchase. The questions are, do they need to apply for the non-lucrative visa prior to even coming to look at the property, Pedro? Obviously, I must admit here
okay.
that, yeah, over to you, Pedro.
Let's explain. I mean, of course, the non-lucrative visa is a visa to enter in Spain, of course, to authorize you to get residency in Spain. Of course, as soon as you enter in Spain with a visa, it doesn't have to be like a non-lucrative visa. You are able to choose a property, to buy a property that is not connected in order to get residency or get a visa in order to buy a property, as Steve, I'm sure that he knows. I understand that probably the question is regarding buying a property without getting the residency, and what happens if at the end in some way they don't get the residency. Well, this is something that is not connected, but we are able to connect it through the agreement. So if you are applying for residency, and one of the main points, if you want to buy a property, so to obtain residency, my recommendation is to first step, apply for residency and get residency. And second step, buy a property. If through that time or in the middle of that, you are doing both things in the same time, and in some way you don't, or you are rejected the non-lucrative visa and you don't get residency, I mean, you will have some obligation through a contract. If you have paid a deposit, you may lose the deposit that you have paid, or you may be obligated to buy the property according to the contract that you have signed. So recommendation is to apply for residency, get residency, and then start binding in a contract in order to buy a property. Of course, in the meantime, of course, you can make a reservation deposit accordingly, or subject to obtain residency. If the estate agents agree, if the vendors agree, well, no problem. Everything can be agreed in a contract, in a document. But my recommendation is, of course, is firstly to obtain the residency or non-lucrative visa.
Well, Pedro, before you go, Pedro, there is a possibility for those who are willing to buy a property in Spain, but not necessarily wants to become resident here. Yes. Exactly.
I mean, you don't have to be resident to buy a property. You just can buy a property and not be non-resident, as thousands and thousands of people are right now as non-residents in Spain and have bought a property in Spain. That is not a problem at all. What I wanted to say is about the non-lucrative visa is a subjective visa. It's like a criteria by a visa chief, and we know which are the minimum criteria. But in some way, it's like an inspector. It takes all the documents and it looks like everything is correct, but could be rejected. So in some way, sometimes the process goes a little bit more further than it is normally. For example, with a golden visa, which is the minimum requirement is, of course, to invest 500,000 euros in property. That is automatically, you get the visa in 10 days, full stop. You don't have to live in Spain. You don't have to be resident in Spain. That is with some other clients, with some other requirements or needs. But with the non-lucrative visa, I recommend, in order to planify, to check everything perfectly, in order to do things by the book on this.
Thank you, Pedro. We've got another question here. Do they dare purchase before applying for non-lucrative visa? Well, I think you cover, well, Pedro, the application could be done in the Spanish consulate, correct?
Exactly. I mean, the application is made in the Spanish consulate. Es la Embajada o Misión Diplomática is made there. And the timing, really, just to be briefly, is whenever you apply, you have to, well, they have 3 months timing in order to answer you. If they don't answer, it means that it's rejected. They normally answer in 1 month, 1 month and a half. And once you obtain this positive answer, then you have 1 month in order to get a visa with a time period of, in order to enter in Spain. Normally it's at maximum 90 days to enter in Spain. And once you enter in Spain, then you get the residence card, you make the fingerprints and these things. But it takes some time. So it's firstly, it's 3 months. So around 2 months to, let's say, to get the visa and then to enter in Spain. So the process, it takes around, I would say, between 3 and 4 months. And of course, one of the things, in order to, I don't know if it's been said at the beginning in the introduction, of course, once you apply for residency, it's something that needs to be linked always with taxes. Yeah. Once you obtain residency, you need to also to state and plan what are going to be your tax obligations in Spain when you become resident.
Okay, I think Michael wanted to say something. Is that correct, Michael?
No, I'm fine.
No, you're fine. Right. I must admit here that if they were rejected, I agree with Pedro. If they are applying for a visa, okay, if the aim to come to Spain is to become resident, I fully agree with Pedro. They rather apply, make the application, come over to Spain, live on rental later on, and then just make a decision. But if you're not really linked to non-lucrative visa or to being resident more than 3 months, because you could be 3 months as a tourist, go back within 6 months, come back again for 3 months within 6. So if that's an option, you could always have a property as a tourist. But in case it was rejected by some reason, normally because you didn't comply with the requirements, this decision could be appealed through the courts. And to be honest, our experience in general, because we've been dealing with these cases for many nationalities, is being always very, very good through the court system, I must admit. Extranjería sometimes just reject it, but even in cases that did go through the courts, if the requirements are correct and straightforward, in general case, I will say most of the cases that we dealt through the appeals in the courts, they've been favorable to clients. So don't worry on that side, or if you're asking about how the court system works in Spain. Now, going back to the questions that we've got from this general clientele from Steve, what specific financial and health requirements are needed to satisfy the application, Pedro?
Well, I think it's been answered by Richard. I will repeat it again. I mean, the figures, it is a reference with it's called IPREM, which is Índice Público, which is a public reference for efectos múltiplos, referencia efectos múltiples, which is really like to get like subsidies, to get help, grants. It's like a reference. And this reference says that for application for non-lucrative is 400 this figure, and this figure is 564.90. Richard has said 565, which is fantastic. It is 7,800 euros, 100%. So it means that you need at least around 32,000 euros for one person with principal who applies for, and around 9,000 euros, 7,800 for the family member. So it means around 41,000 euros. If I'm not, if I don't calculate, but in order to, in this case for two people, in order to a principal and a family member, in order to apply for the non-lucrative visa. So these are the figures, the financial, and what it is also a must. You need to show that you have, not just showing that you have the money, also need to show that you have access to that money. It is not correct if you have some money that you are not able to access that, to use it, to spend it in Spain in order to, for normal life, in order not to have the need to work. You need to show that you have access to that. It's bank statements, of course, and many other ways in order to show you have access to money. And also you have some monthly payments that you are receiving from many ways. I mean, you need to show all this, and all the documents needs to be apostille with the Apostille of Hague Convention, 1961. In United Kingdom, it is made in the Commonwealth Office in London, and needs to be translated also into Spanish. All documents in order to be perfectly proof and not to have any rejection or answer by the immigration office to translate it after.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. And the very last from Steve, I'm going to ask to Michael. Are the Spanish government going to make the property purchasing system somewhat easy in the future? What do you think, Michael? Have you heard anything about the property system in the future? The retiring expat community gives a welcome and much needed boost to the Spanish economy at present. Our UK clientele are not willing to meet under such restrictions as are in place at the moment. Do you want to comment something here, Michael? Or
I'm not sure if he's referring to the actual purchasing system or sort of the effects of Brexit on the existing system. If that's what he's referring to, which I sort of think that's probably going to be the case. I don't know. I suspect nobody knows, but I suspect that the 90-day rule, I think, forward is going to change. That's what I think, but I don't know. Of course, I've got no magic ball. I just think it makes common sense for them to sort of do something about that. Once the dust has settled from all the, you know, the moment of the Brexit happening, and I think they may do something about that.
Right. I will ask you to keep your microphones off if you're not speaking. Pedro, if you could turn it off. Richard, could you turn off the microphone, Pedro? Richard, over to you.
Yeah, I noticed there's one question there on the reciprocal health agreement between the UK and Spain. It's something that we've been chasing up. And the answer is it is being discussed, but there is no definite news and there is no progress at the moment. But it is something that is being discussed. So there's hope there. That's really all I wanted to comment on.
Right, Richard, have you lately been in touch with the British consulate, passing over questions? Is there anything else you think they're working on? For example, I spoke to my accountant and he expects to have an agreement about driving license, but there is nothing yet on the table. Is it something that you think they are working on that you're aware of, Richard?
Yeah, they are definitely working on it. We've had confirmation on that, but there is nothing happening at the moment. The problem is that COVID is unfortunately slowing everything down, but it is being discussed. I'm not sure that I'm as confident as Michael about the 90-day rule. I don't think that's going to change in the foreseeable future. We can hope, but we've got no indications of that at all. And as we understand it, it's not being discussed either.
Right. Okay, Richard. I don't know if John wants to say anything here. John? The microphone.
Yeah, I've not really got much to add. Just picking up on the point with driving licenses, my latest experience at Tráfico in Elche this particular week, they are saying that if you have registered the driving license and you registered it correctly, either digitally or using 0600, they will exchange those by the 30th of June. But what they are sticking to at the moment is failure to have done that requires a test in Spain.
Right, thank you, John. Actually, I still insist for these people who are watching, or friends, or who did put the paperwork in process before the 31st of December, try to keep paperwork in order, try to keep evidence now better than before. You're going to be able to use all this little evidence that you became resident before, and every little paperwork works. For example, even if you did a tax declaration, etc., etc. Because the thing is, we're out of date to apply for the TIE, but if you could prove you were resident before, you still could get your TIE. So that will be the number one. The second one will be the non-lucrative visa, as Pedro stated. The golden visa, we've got some questions here about the golden visa, but it's based on a purchase over 500,000 euros. And as you said, COVID still didn't make it happening. I know from state agents that there is a lot of virtual touring. Actually, I did pop in before we joined the webinar to one here, and they said they're just moving. So things are moving, but as you said, slowly. Now, back to the questions here. We've got many. We're going to start now with Nadim. The first stage of my residency has been approved online. So will I be able to travel and return to Alicante with a confirmation letter I'm due to receive in the post confirming my approval? I agree. I think that what she meant is she's got the resolution, John. It's my understanding that she will have no problem even though she didn't get a fingerprint. But well, I think, Pedro, will you and John give an answer to this?
Do you want to go ahead first, Pedro? I mean,
it's okay. Go on.
Okay, so my understanding at the moment, there was a very narrow window that was given because of the COVID situation where people could use various documents. But I believe currently we're back to the scenario where the only acceptable document to travel back to Spain at this moment in time is either the SUI, Green Residencia, or the TIE, physical TIE.
Pedro, would you like to add something?
Yeah, well, I agree with what John says. Of course, this is something that if she doesn't have those documents, as we mentioned, I will suggest Nadine, in order to, I mean, if she has already applied, has a resolution about being invested in Spain, just to make a specific and personal query about that in order to enter in Spain. Yeah.
Okay. Now, the second question, my mother has her NIE and is planning to buy property here and move to Alicante full time. With my residency, is there a way I can assist or expedite her application, Pedro?
Well, applications, I mean, in her mother names, of
Family
course.
member, probably, I think.
A family member, that would be the solution, of course. And all the applications right now, we are doing it telematically. So at the end, it has to extract office in order to do it in the name of your mother. And of course, being assisted by her and connected and linked through her residency.
So I guess, Pedro, she's saying a family member apply as a family member based on a European citizen, correct?
That's what I understand, yes.
Okay.
I mean, she's from United Kingdom, is that right? Or I'm not sure, I mean, which is nationality?
Well, we're talking here for the British, because the rest would not have a problem to apply for residencia. So let's clarify this point.
Okay, so she's from United Kingdom, yeah. I'm married with a Dutch national, that's right.
Right, okay. Well, the good thing is people who are married to a European citizen, they still have a possibility to make the application, even though it's after the 31st of December 2020, they can still make the application. They need to attach the marriage certificate or the registered couple registration, and make sure they have money in the bank for 6 months. The European citizen, 12,000 euros in the bank for 6 months. So that will be the requirement for the British applying for the family member residency card based on European citizen. Okay, so that's the second part. For a lot of people who didn't make it on time, they could still try that one. That's much easier road than non-lucrative visa or arraigo. We didn't even go into the arraigo, which basically you need the same requirements as non-lucrative visa, but you need to be registered on the padron at least for 3 years. Okay, right, let's move on. With my residency, do I now qualify for state medical care? I require a GP and seem to be enabled with my private health insurance. Is anybody who wants to answer that? I think Pedro, you could reply. Do I now qualify to safe medical care? I think she could join Convenio Especial as well if she didn't work.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, she will be able to get that medical care especial. But as it's been said by Richard, I mean, let's say what is going to happen in the near future between Spain and UK regarding another convenio. But of course, you will be able to get that.
Yeah. After you're registering the padron for 1 year, you could connect into the social security system for a flat fee if you don't have any coverage. Okay, you have first private insurance, and later on you could join the health system. Again, how do British citizens guarantee they get their COVID-19 vaccine whilst in Spain? Will it be necessary to fly back to the UK? Yes, Richard, over to you.
This is something that we've been checking up on, and the Spanish government has said every person who is legally resident in Spain will receive the COVID vaccine. So if you're British and you're resident, you will get it. The only question that we haven't had answered completely is those that are here and are registered solely on private medical and haven't registered into the system. We're not quite sure how they get found, because at the moment in the Valencia region, it's being done on the SIP card, i.e. you're registered in the healthcare system and you will be called to have your vaccine when it is your time. If you're only private healthcare, of course, you haven't got the SIP card. We've queried this and we are led to believe at this stage that it will be padron. So if you are on the padron, you will get the vaccine. Everybody in Spain is going to get the vaccine. Now, the final comment I'll make on that, we come back to something that you and I, Ignacio, have been saying for 3.5 years. Make sure you're registered, make sure you're on the padron, and make sure your paperwork is in order. And that's really all you can say on this.
That's good advice, Rita. Yes, we've been going over and over on webinars, seminars, etc. But unfortunately, some people didn't get the message, and now we are in the situation. Now, going back to the Nadine's questions, she's saying, over to Michael, what is required to buy property here in Spain with cash? Are there any tax benefit to purchase with cash? Over to you, Michael. I think the microphone is off. There we go. Michael, the microphone is off.
Okay, when she says money in cash, I'm not sure if she's referring to money in a bag or to be purchasing without a mortgage. If it's to buy money with money in a bag, it's impossible. The solicitor will have to report her to the money laundering compliance system and won't even be able to tell her that they've done that. So don't go into a solicitor and say that you want to buy a property in cash. As far as buying without a mortgage, well, the only thing it has is one, it guarantees that you've got the funds and therefore you don't have to be waiting for a mortgage to be granted or not. And second, it would be quicker to buy without a mortgage because a mortgage takes about 1.5 months to process at the moment. But they're still granting mortgages in Spain to non-residents, roughly around 60% of the valuation.
Right, thank you, Michael. She says, I'm British citizen, but have a UAE driving license. What should I do to get a Spanish license? What would the requirements be in English or Spanish? Rita, would you want to comment something about this on driving license? Because you're an expert already.
Your nationality isn't the key to the driving license. The key to the driving license is which country issued it. I'm not sure about a UAE driving license, so I'm stuck. If it's a European driving license, like a Belgian or a French one, the standard rules apply. But one assumes that that's a third nation status from the UAE. Maybe somebody else knows more than me on this one.
John, would you like to comment something? Pedro, yeah?
There is no agreement between Spain and UAE countries. So I mean, I'm assuming there is no rules regarding that. It is general rules, so it will have to be in some way changed.
International.
Exactly. So there is no agreement between Spain and UAE.
Yeah. So pretty much we'll be like back as we are now with the British.
Exactly.
I'm afraid, Pedro,
That's
yes?
right. That's right.
Right, the last one from Nadine. As a Brit married to a Dutch national in Spain, is there anything we should be aware of with regards to STAR? Well, I think the benefit of it is that for Residencia, it will be very straightforward for her, as long as she could prove she's married, and then she's got the 12,000 euros for 6 months in the bank. That means the husband, okay? Because he needs to prove he's got the funds to finance the non-European. Okay, now going back to more questions, and they keep coming, Pedro, more messages, Michael. My son works for a company in the UK and has come to stay with us for a couple of months and is working remotely. How long can he stay in Spain before it starts to affect his tax? Pedro, would you like to answer that?
Okay. I understand that it's not going to be more than 6 months in Spain. I mean, the general rule in Spain is that whenever you, stay more than 180 days in Spain, you become resident. And if you become resident, then you are tax resident in Spain. So, which means that if he remotely comes to Spain and works a couple of months, as it's been said, I understand, remotely, into a UK company and is working here personally, in this way, I mean, of course, there is no attraction on taxes by the Spanish tax office, even though, of course, we need to check and see it perfectly, which is the convention between Spain and UK, in order to avoid double taxation, which I would say one of the main rules of BIF summarize that if you, in order to pay taxes accordingly in UK and not in Spain, you have to make the working in UK. In this case, my suggestion, my recommendation, of course, is that the taxes needs to be paid in UK and not in Spain. If it's 2 months, it is remotely, and it's not really working in Spain, it's really working remotely in UK.
I think Pedro probably, if he stays for 6 months in Spain, the problem he's going to have, he doesn't have the visa. He will be over the 3 months on the immigration.
Yeah, but I understood in the question you said it was 2 months, no? No more than 3.
Couple of months, correct? Couple of months. Yeah. But now they need to be people now. I guess they need to be the conscious that one thing are the immigration and one thing is the taxation. So it's two things to worry now.
This is why it says to obtain, to be resident in Spain, and if you are resident in Spain, then you are attracted to pay and declare taxes in Spain, according to the double taxation treaty between the UK and Spain, where you have to declare your worldwide income in Spain, and then, of course, subject to the double taxation treaties, to pay taxes in one country or the other one. Perfect. But in this case, working remotely in Spain, coming here a couple of months, working in a company in UK, in that case, that is not going to arise some problems with him.
No. Thank you, Pedro. And just a quick reminder to those who are going to who were resident in 2020, from the 1st of January to the 31st of March of this year now, they need to report, there is a form, there is the 720. If they have assets over 50,000 euros abroad, property, shares, bonds, dividends, they must declare it in the form 720. Doesn't mean paying tax, but that's from January to March. They need to do a declaration. Or if they did already declare it before and they had an increase of 20% on everything, let's say you sold the property or whatever, there is always the 720 from January to March, and then you need to do your income tax return from April to June. Probably later on we could discuss it over. Now for Richard, we've got Kim Valentine. He's asking you, is a Belgian driving license valid in Spain?
Same rules apply. Yes, you can drive on a Belgian driving license in Spain, but you have to change it. It's as simple as that. You have a limited time to drive on it. It's the same rules right across Europe.
Correct. Thank you, Richard. And from their residencia, they've got the 2 years to swap it and make it Spanish driving license. Now, going back to the panel here, Julia Hatfield, we're hoping to come and live in Spain and already have property there. If we have financial security, can we make the move without having a salary? I don't know if Pedro wants to say
I think I understand what the question, I cannot read it, but I understand what the question is. As much as they have access to money, much as they have money in order to prove that they are able to, at the end, to live in Spain properly, that's enough. Do not have to be a salary.
Right, Michael, we've got a question here from John Winderham. Does the Golden Visa scheme now apply to Brits post-Brexit? And is the threshold still 500,000 property value? And is it likely to change? Over to you, Michael.
Yeah, well, I understand. Yes, the Golden Visa is now applicable to UK nationals wanting to move to Spain. With the threshold still the same, 500,000 euro or 2 million euro in stocks and shares.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I've got Ian Miller here. He says, hi, I have 2 questions concerning the Golden Visa. I've purchased in residential property over 500,000 euros. We're currently living in the UK. First, if you buy 2 properties for these amounts or more, do they need to be purchased at the same time, or can there be a gap between them? Secondly, if and when you renew the visa, are the properties revalued, and what happens if the value drops below 500,000? I don't know if Pedro or wants to say something about it.
Yeah, I mean, do not have, just to answer Ian, I think you said that number, the name, do not have to be bought the properties at the same time. I mean, the investment must be 500,000 euros. You can buy one property, you can buy 10 properties or 50,000 euros, it doesn't matter. And do not have to be at the same time, and can be a gap between them. Needs to be, I mean, now is the time, of course, I mean, it was needed to be bought after some period of time after the law was approved. So now you could buy, for example, a property this month, and in 6 months' time buy another one, and that would be covering the investment. Regarding the revaluation, or the property has revaluated whenever you renew it, that doesn't count. It's investment. How much money have you invested? For example, you can buy a property of different properties of, let's say, 1 million euros, apply for a mortgage of 500,000 euros, and put from your pocket 500,000 euros. That is the investment, and this is the proof. And you need to prove through a certification from land registry that you have invested 500,000 euros. It means that can this change? Can you sell one of the properties and buy another one, and that will be counting on renewal? Yes. But these things need to be duly advised. What you cannot do is just to apply for residence golden visa because of investment, rapidly sell the properties, and a month before renewal buy some other ones. That will not count in that way. But you can amend or change the investment from properties, as is being said by Michael, to Spanish debt, for example, or to buy some 1 million euros in the bank deposit, or in a company in Spain on shares. There are different kind of investments. You could change that into, I mean, from properties to that kind of investment, and will be okay to do that.
I have a quick,
right, thank you, Pedro. Yeah, Michael, yes, over to you.
I know Pedro's an expert in golden visa, so I'll take the opportunity to ask him a question about it. Pedro, when you, the 500,000 euro, I know there's a married couple, and the property is just put in one name. He can request a golden visa, and his wife can take advantage of that same request. But what happens? Would they be allowed the golden visa if they purchase the property half each, and therefore they've in fact purchased? They wouldn't be able to, would they?
That question that you've made is, for me, is crucial whenever someone is applying for golden visa. Imagine that a couple that they have economic agreement on marriage, there is a separación de bienes in this case, that is not jointly, is not together, is separated on economic issues. And they both buy the property 500,000 euros, and they both want to apply for golden visa. Will not be approved, will be totally rejected. Okay, so
it's a problem, of course, isn't it?
So yeah, so on some ways, say you will need to apply to buy or invest more, or just to change your economic regime issues and buy a property of 500,000 euros. Say in the deed, it's important in the deed that whatever you say is regarding that is a sociedad gananciales, or is a regime which is everything together, and one of them, just one of them, not both of them, applies for golden visa as principal, and the other one applies for family
beneficiaries.
That is crucial, and many people make mistakes on that.
Yeah.
Right, good question then.
So it is important.
Yeah.
It is important on the time where you are investing and you are buying, which means on the private contract and also on the public deed, is everything perfectly set.
That's very good. Now, I like to highlight that it's important for them to have always independent legal advice before they do anything. Now, in the old days, the immigration was not as important, and now is becoming as well very, very important. John Winderham is asking here, is it better, Pedro, to use golden visa or non-lucrative visa? Obviously, there's two different roads, but what do you think, Pedro?
Well, if you don't want to get residency, I mean, you can have access to, with a golden visa, with a visa, and to enter in Spain, to go Schengen area countries, perfect. And you don't have to be resident. I think I said at the beginning, once you become resident, you are attracted in order to declare your worldwide income in Spain on taxes. So you can apply for golden visa and renew The golden visa is firstly 1 year, then it's 2 years time, then it's 5 years if you maintain the investment, with the exception that you can change and amend the investments. So golden visa is very flexible. Golden visa is fantastic. It's very flexible, and you can become resident, perfect, or you don't have to be resident, perfect also. With the non-lucrative visa, you become resident because you, in order to renew it, is 1 year plus 2 years plus 2 years plus 5 years. You need to show that you have been living in Spain and you have been resident in Spain. If you don't show that you have been resident in Spain, you will be rejected in order to renew it. So that's mainly the difference on a question that is being made. It depends. We have clients that they don't want to get residency, they just want to have access to Spain and Schengen countries through an investment, property or banks or whatever. Perfect, it's fantastic. And if they want to become resident, they could do it also with the golden visa. It's fantastic. It's automatically, it's fast. It's a lot faster than the non-lucrative visa. And I assume that if someone is able to make an investment and wants to make an investment, it's part of the plan in order to come to Spain and apply for in some way in the future residency, I would recommend to go to do it through the golden visa. That is fantastic. We have clients that they have bought a house, a country house or an apartment, and they buy another properties in order to get some rents on those properties. It's fantastic. But of course, if you are not able to make that big investment, of course, this is non-lucrative visa is the way to do it. Until, and this is something that we expect in some future, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, United Kingdom will be in some way with the same requirements, probably, I'm talking about probably years, but as Norway, as Switzerland, and Liechtenstein, Iceland, that the requirements are lower. But this time, what we have right now is the path in order to apply for residency in Spain will be like non-lucrative visa.
Okay, thank you, Pedro. Yes, actually, if you could choose between the two, the good thing, as Pedro said, if you go for golden visa, if you have the money, that would be the issue. The good thing with the golden visa, you don't need to stay a period of time, and you don't have to become fiscal resident. So probably that's a benefit, isn't it, Pedro, on the golden visa? Now, the non-lucrative visa, the good thing is you'll have to stay more than 6, which, as Pedro said, it commits yourself to become fiscal resident, but you don't need to spend so much money on a property investment, Pedro, isn't it? So
exactly, you don't even have to, for the non-lucrative visa, you don't even have to invest in a property. I mean, you can rent a property and finish. As much as you show that you are able to live in Spain in some place, if you buy a property, perfect. And if you can rent a property and stay and look for the areas, the places, see properties, and then buy a property after you get the residency is also an option. With a golden visa, you need to show the investment. That's a must. And of course, important as you said, I mean, once you become resident, you have to declare your worldwide income in Spain. Worldwide income, it means also, and it counts also whatever you get in Spain, of course.
Well, thank you very much, Pedro. Yeah, and actually, I still insist that people still could come for 3 months, do inspect within the 6 months, go back and come back, so they could still carry on being non-resident, Pedro. So it's still a possibility of coming back and forth, except now with COVID that we are very limited. I think Michael in the Andalusia community as well is with a lot of restriction today as we are. Now we're running out of time, but I will be amazed that we still have, I will believe, 30 or 40 questions here to answer. Now I would like you, Richard, if you would like to say something to finish off, because we promise we're going to go back on track and carry on next webinar where we left it. Time is precious for everybody here on the panel, and I thank you for that. Manuel from the custom company agent couldn't make it, so we'll make sure next time he could join us about bringing pets, bringing goods from the UK, etc., etc. What is being the scenario for him, because he's been very, very busy. Here we go. Hey, Manuel.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody.
Right, it seems like magic. Yeah, yeah. We
Sorry
were
for
finishing off.
my delay, but it's really at customs have been crazy days. The situation in Calais in customs is horrible about the work there for all custom professionals. For UK custom agents is the same. It's quite hard to find a custom agent nowadays at UK, and here too.
What will you highlight, Manuel? What will you highlight on this period? And what will you advise? Because you've been dealing a lot with goods, with pets, with individuals. What do you recommend?
Up for today, the main operation or problem we are seeing, or the new points we are seeing, is the needing of the people, most of them from the UK, living here or with second residence here, moving their home staff to here, to Spain. In the past, there was any paperwork needed and any tax to pay. Nowadays, with Brexit, it's necessary to make that movings, and we have receiving a lot of calls from removal companies, and they are asking us to make the custom clearing. What does it mean? Nowadays, when you send the stuff, your home and all your personal effects from the UK, you really need to make the transport under a transit system. That means that they must pass through France under a custom control, and after that they need to go to a custom to make the custom clearing to legalize here in Spain the goods. As a consequence, the people doing this will find that they are asked about a lot of more documents. They need a document showing the relation of the goods carried on the lorry or on the truck. They will be asked to value them, to give them a value, and they are under 21% of VAT payment necessary to make the import in Spain, and they need to contact with a custom agent here. There is an exemption, important to mention too, for people finally moving from UK to Spain, or in the contrary sense, from Spain to UK. Under some requirements, you can be exempt of paying any tax if your moving is a final movie. You are not coming to your second residence, or you are not coming for a holiday, but you're coming from moving definitely your residence here to Spain. Under some criteria, you must be exempt. Personally, they will ask about the registration in the Padrón here in Spain. They will ask to justify you have been living at the UK more than 12 months. Some legal requirements needed to live exempt. We are not still here in our area in Alicante. We are a huge traffic or passengers coming for holiday or whatever from the UK to Spain. We are not still having a lot of that, and the problem have not arrived still because of unfortunately because the COVID. Nowadays the passenger traffic is very, very few. And in the airports, in the main entry airports from the UK for passengers, they expect there can be some delays or some queues to make the registration and in the custom control. Mainly, the more repeat situation that first 2 weeks of Brexit is about the problems that some people have had because of sending their personal effects to Spain, because they are not used at all to be asked about all that. They can understand nothing. They can understand why they have to pay that 21% VAT, and we are making a hard work explaining them this and try to be exempt when we have some legal exit for do it.
Thank you, Manuel. We thought you were not going to be able to come, so thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. I was saying here that we have so many questions here that even trying to go as fast as we could, we are leaving a lot of them. But I'm sure a lot of people could even do personal appointments with you. I think you left your message here, your email address, in case they need help. Michael, could you, Pedro, Richard, and John write in the chat your email address and your contact details? So just in case clients wants to and the audience wants to do specific questions to you. Now, the very last Richard, would you like to say anything here to the audience, like to finishing up?
Yeah, there is one point I'd like to make, and it's a little bit contentious, but I'm sure that all of us here on the panel are encountering this problem. I know John and I are, and very quickly, it's the people who have applied for residency at TIE and then gone back to the UK and now find themselves stuck. That leaves them with a problem, because for certain elements, they have to be here. And what I'm going to say very simply is, with the current situation in COVID, when you've started the process for your TIE, it's extremely unwise to go back to the UK at the moment. And I hope people bear that in mind. Thank you, Ignacio, for inviting
Thank you,
me.
Richard. Actually, I would recommend people who are in that situation, because later on, this is going to go into court, I'm pretty sure. So as I said before, make sure you've got all the evidence. Now, I know it will be hard to say, I'm stuck. It will be not very easy to prove, but I might recommend them to hire a solicitor and try to go to a public notary to make a declaration saying that there is no possibility for them to attend, even try to attach to the notary summon a minute that there is no flights, at least to prove a little bit in good faith about it's impossible and is force majeure, basically. John, would you like to say something else to finish up?
I think I'd just really like to highlight on that point that Richard has made. And like you're saying, there are vehicles that can be used, but it is really, really important. If you've started the process, you haven't got to the fingerprinting process, but you've had your resolution, wherever possible, stay where you are and stay put, because of the unpredictability of the COVID situation at the moment. You know, and like you're saying, if you have had to go back and it's because of medical reasons, for example, keep all of those medical reports, because they will be needed potentially in the future. Okay.
Thank you, John. Pedro, what would you like to say to finish up the webinar today?
Well, just to mention about this new situation that, of course, everyone is suffering is we are getting more and more situations where people has, regarding properties, already bought a property in private contract or make a reservation, and through this process, in some ways, they cannot complete in the near future, and they argue they cannot complete. Well, take legal advice on these circumstances, because sometimes you are in a breach of contract, or what you require in order to prove you are available to argue and extend this is timing. And so I will not just for that, of course, for taxes and immigration, but this specific issue, which is maybe is going to happen in the following months, in the following weeks, just to take legal advice on that.
Thank you, Pedro. Michael, would you like to add something else before we close up?
Yeah, well, I was going to say exactly what Pedro has said. I mean, there's going to be lots of problems with contracts that can't be met because people can't come over, or they're using the excuse they can't come over because they don't really want to complete now. There's going to be a lot of court cases, I think, in the next year or so, with as a consequence of what's happening at the moment.
Thank you, Michael. Manuel, anything else? Any advice from custom agent here?
No, only alert about UK now is a third country. Don't be confused about the free trade agreement and all that. That is making the transition smoother, and we have a better relation in a lot of aspects of the economy, of the living of the people. But talking about transport of goods and the personal effects, when you move not in your baggage but in a lorry sending to UK from UK, really are goods. customs are doing their complete process. They are under the same control than they come from China or from any other country. And it's important to be informed previously, ask and try to make the documents properly to avoid to pay or to delay the deliveries. It's very important to be minded with that.
Okay, well, as very last, we've discussed in many seminars and webinars here, power of attorney is essential now in a lot of situations because of the lockdown. We've been dealing a lot with clients who are not able to cope with the situation, or they've got family here, mum and dad is here, they're over there. Just make sure you speak to your lawyer, try to organize power of attorney, which could be very handy for doing things here and now. And yes, we're going to carry on doing this webinar because I see a lot of questions. So we're going to give you updates in the law. We're going to share with you now a video, and then we're going to see you hopefully the next week or the following weeks, depending on the timetable, because we're all very busy. But yes, we'll be soon with you. Thank you for joining us, and see you soon. Over to Juanfran. Thank you.
Trust is vital when you're in another country. If you want to buy a home, set up business relationships, or apply for a residence permit, you need to be able to count on the best independent legal aid. Pellicer and Heredia is an international firm of lawyers with over 20 years experience and one single aim: for you to live at ease in Spain. In order to give you a clear, streamlined and fast response, we work with a cross-disciplinary team of professionals specializing in the main legal fields: civil law, foreigners' affairs, business law, tax and financial law, and international law. And to ensure that you're kept informed and up to date with everything, we have 6 offices on the Eastern Coast. Whether you're from here or abroad, we will always stand by you and speak your language. Our relationship is based on openness, professionalism, and a commitment to finding legal solutions in your best interests and for your peace of mind. Pellicer and Heredia, international lawyers.